Welcome back to the Innovator podcast, everyone. I'm really excited about a bit of a pivot we're making in our format. You have met our operations leader, Mike Brown, on a couple of episodes, but we decided going forward that both myself, Don, and Mike are going to co-host the Innovator podcast going forward. And so Mike's going to be on all of the episodes going forward, and I'm really excited to have Mike as my podcast partner. We are both relatively high on quick start and as an action instinct, and so we're better communicating by talking, and so what you're going to get from us is Mike and I chatting about the best things that we can share on technology, on the company, on where we're going, on what we've accomplished. And so I'm super excited to have you here, Mikey.
Thank you.
Today, we're going to dive into a topic of guarantee of risk reversal. And we're specifically talking about Innovator's Pay Once Promise and how that can be a paradigm shift in terms of accountability, in terms of customer satisfaction, in terms of transparency. And for me, ultimately, a guarantee is not about a legal obligation. It's about saying what you're going to do what you say, and prove it, and put some skin in the game so that, you stand by your word. And so Mike and I are going to dive in a little bit and talk about Innovator's Pay Once Promise from the standpoint of putting skin in the game and keeping our word. Mikey, where do you want to start?
Well, I guess we could just talk about what the Pay Once Promise is and, kind of let it evolve from there.
Okay. So, I like simplicity. And, so when we name this, it really is self-explanatory, right? The name of our guarantee, Pay Once Promise, basically means that where we apply it, and as we apply it and as it evolves, customers are going to pay once. That may sound self-evident, but the reality is that in maintenance and repair, it's pretty uncommon for customers to only have to pay once, right?
Yeah, it's something that's kind of close to my heart because I've come up in the leak repair background. That's what I spent the better part of my career doing. And the old token saying was, we have taillight warranty, or, it was broken when we got here, and Innovator takes a totally different approach to that. And, what we want to sell you is a solution, not a Band-Aid. So I think that, there isn't very many contractors out there that can put a guarantee like we do on our repairs. And I think that it has proven already to take us to a different level.
Right. And on leak repair in particular, I love the old adage of the warranty is as good as long as you can see my taillights. Because that's basically it, right? Leak repair, or I don't even know if really from a pressure authority standpoint, the organizations like ABSA don't really consider it a repair so much as leak mitigation. But the job of a leak repair company is to stop the leak. Maybe not permanently, but to stop the leak. And, our commitment is that that's got to be a partnership and a collaboration between us and our client. Yes, it was broke when we got there, but they called us in to unbreak it, or at least to stop the leak until they can put in a more permanent repair. And so, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for leak repair for us?
So we split the Pay Once Promise into, I would call it, two different guarantees. You've got your out of truck repairs, which is like a 30-day guarantee. And what that would cover is your bonnet injections, your packings, your upstream line blocks, things that aren't an engineered enclosure. So when we get out to site, we'll do our injection. We may come back a previous day just to monitor it and make sure that either our sealant's cured or the packing's still holding. And then, those are very common items to leak right away if they're going to leak again. So what we've done is for 30 days, if it's going to leak, we will come back and do the re-injection for free. And not, oh, we're not going to charge you for material. We mean we give you a LEM with $0 on it. Labor, travel, no sealant charges, no drill bits, like $0. So that's pretty big, and it's a big peace of mind for our end users. And then the other side of it is for engineered enclosures. Those are a 365-day guarantee. And we put a lot of effort in the background to making sure that those engineered enclosures have longevity. Obviously for us, because we want to make sure that we don't need to come out constantly and re-inject it on our own dime. But it's just taking pride and quality in what Innovator does, and I think that we're some of the best in the industry at it.
When I started off in bolting on the leak prevention side, and then I moved into leak repair, and then I obviously had various leadership and management roles. What strikes me about this is this isn't common. Like, there's a lot of buzzwords out there around how good people are, and a lot of companies, and I was with some of those companies who really told the line that they were the best at it, or they had a great process to ensure something didn't leak. But when you put skin in the game like this, and I mean, Mike, you oversee the execution of this with your field teams, how does that change the mindset and sort of the focus and attention for your teams and for you when you know that you're taking ownership of it in a different way than anybody else?
Well, right from the office, I mean, you want to make sure that you're collecting good data and stuff, but honestly, this falls down to our technicians. So right from the moment that we get out to site and we're taking detailed measurements to make sure that you have a snug fit. We're doing quality checks to make sure that once we get the fitting back from the machine shop, that it's exactly the dimensions that we're looking for. The rope packing that goes into it is applied correctly, or the tubing is applied correctly. It's properly bolted up. The sealant injection is right up to pressure. You're picking the right compounds. You're peening the enclosure in the right way. The quality of detail of putting an enclosure on is so critical when it comes to longevity of it. So I think that, from our field technicians really walking the walk in the field, and the management side of Innovator, making sure that we're doing the right solution with our engineering groups. We're really crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, if you will, just to make sure that these things do last for as long as we say that they're going to.
Right. I mean, like everything you just said, I've seen in quality and operational and technical procedure manuals from lots of companies that I worked with, that I led, that you've led. But I think the difference is that we're not just writing it down in a policy manual or in a technical procedure. We're really trying to bring it to life with actions that our people are doing, right? It's you said attention to detail, but it's being vigilant. There's nothing magic about what we're doing different than anyone else, except we're putting skin in the game and we're being vigilant about it.
Yes.
Yeah. How does this sort of shift our focus on being focused on results and on being focused on what our clients need for a solution, from your point of view, compared to if you were only providing a tailgate promise?
Well, I think that, at the end of the day, it'll make us get more creative with our solutions. Like, we don't want to go out and put an enclosure on that might mitigate the leak for a couple of months. Like, when we build things, they are solutions, and we don't want to be making a promise on something that we're not confident in. So we just,
Right.
as a group, we use a lot of collaboration. Like, there's a lot of vendors out there that will have off the shelf fittings or whatever it may be that certainly do work in a lot of applications. But we collaborate with our engineering group and our field technicians, along with our management team, and just make sure that we're all aligned on what the solution is going to be for whatever the application might be, and just make sure that when we are finalizing all of these designs, that we're all confident in them and we're all on the same page.
Right. You talked about, other people might have solutions on the shelf where they've got their own processes. And, you and I both work with those companies. The two of us, we've probably had 5 or 6 of those organizations that we've seen the way that they do things. And they're all good companies. There's nothing wrong with them. But they don't treat leak repair or leak prevention like with the commitment and the promise that we're making. When we started Innovator, it was funny. I was in preparation for this talk. I was doing some prep and looking at when we started talking about the Pay Once promise and when we started writing down our own internal guidelines for it. And it started in 2011. And I found a detailed guideline, an internal document that was how our team should be communicating with our customers and how our field team should apply it. That was a 5-6 page document that was sort of providing basic guidelines for how to use this with our clients, dating back to 2013. So it's been in practice for about 12 or 13 years, and really trying to communicate it and put more structure to it so that it becomes universal for about 11 years. And I was thinking about, why I decided that this is what I wanted Innovator to be about. And it came back to 2 pivotal moments when I worked for 2 other organizations. One company, and this is dating back 25 years ago now, on the construction of the Suncor Millennium Project. And I was a manager at a company, and I had sold and was putting together the specifications and the team to handle all the bolting and flange management for the upgrader number 2 construction. And we had about 10,000 flanges that we were managing and working with the general contractor to do everything, help them to do everything they could to prevent leaks on startup. And the question came to me, by various clients. So, like, if one does leak and we followed your process, like, what's the guarantee? And I couldn't answer the question because I didn't own the business. We were trying to create a systematic process. We weren't necessarily trying to create a systematic process and make a guarantee. So I went to the ownership and the leadership of that company, and they basically said, "We'll give them back the $500 or whatever the cost was for that flange." I'm like, does the customer really want $500 back if a 12-inch 600-pound flange leaks? Like, what's a 12-inch flange repair cost if you got to make an EPE for it?
Right. North of 30 grand.
Right. And so, I couldn't reconcile, well, we'll give you back $500 versus, but then you're going to have to shut down, or you're going to have to, do this much larger leak repair job. And that one, it really sat with me the wrong way that we were selling this leak prevention process, but we weren't putting any skin in the game or standing by it in any kind of way. And that company's view was, well, we don't do leak repair. We're in the leak prevention business. But I still struggled with that, because if we're going to prevent it and we don't prevent it, shouldn't we have more responsibility than the 3.5 hours that we charged for doing the work on that one of 10,000 flanges? And couldn't get there. And then fast forward a few years later, and I was working for a large global integrated sort of specialty company, and I was their leader, general manager here in Canada. And they were and they are a pretty sizable leak repair company globally. But I would be involved in management meetings and in budget preparations, and part of the budget planning in that company was something that they called reinjection revenue, and they were playing company wide. They knew, because they'd been around for a long time, they had the data that basically they could predict if they were selling this much leak repair, this is how much leak repair reinjection revenue they could expect to come along with it. And I felt similar to that other story around leak prevention, that if you've got a leak repair company who in their business practice is planning to make money off of failure, and what message, and like, let's face it, like, I've done leak repair, you've done a lot more. There's lots of our listeners who are probably leak repair people, even with some of our competitors. And there's no debate, right, that sometimes you try to mitigate a leak and a leak reoccurs, right? We're not promising nothing's ever going to leak, right, Mike?
100%. Like they
right.
they may.
Right. So, but what struck me was the message that budget planning sent to the entire organization. Because the message that I got that was really clear, and the message that every other manager in that organization got, is that it was our business intent to make money off of leak repair services not working. And I just felt that it really sat like a contradiction to me. And so, that's the genesis of the Pay Once promise, is experiencing that contradiction in leak prevention companies and in leak repair companies, where they really weren't standing with the customer and the client to actually prevent the leak and to actually repair the leak. It was, to help, and what struck me is that our clients are hiring us to prevent leaks, or our clients are hiring us to repair leaks. They're not hiring us to maintain leaks, right? They don't, does that have to happen? Sure. And are there situations? Sure. But, that's the deep motivation behind doing this differently.
Yeah, and that's
what are your thoughts on that, Mike? I mean, because it's not about, I think the big argument that I get, from people who've worked for me in other companies or competitors is, hey, you can't guarantee it won't leak. Tell me your thoughts on all that, because it's not about preventing leaks.
Well, there is one comment you made near the end that I'd like to touch on. So there is leaks out there that certainly do need to be maintained. There will be scenarios, and there is scenarios day in, day out, where a client will come to us with a certain application, and Innovator will just be upfront that we cannot provide a Pay Once promise on it. There is pesky leaks like this. Things
Absolutely.
like, pressure fluctuations, temperature fluctuations in a big way. Did the unit shut down, lose all pressure, and fire back up? Those are scenarios that we would outline. Those things we would recoup our time for. However, the other side of it is, I couldn't agree more with, re-injections is a huge part of the industry. But what we're trying to sell is the fact that we're actually actively trying to not do re-injections. You know what I mean? We're coming out, we're giving it our best shot. And if for whatever reason it does leak, it's on us. So I really like that we do, as you say, put the skin in the game.
Yeah, and for me, and I think for our team, it's about, you know, do we want to do one job at a time for a client, or do we want to have a long-term relationship as partners where they trust us that, yeah, sometimes we're going to have to come back, and sometimes we're going to have to honor our commitments financially. But it's about building trust and relationships, and having that trust and relationship with the team members on our client side, that they can just call Mike and the team, and there's a high level of trust that they're going to do everything they can to take care of them, and there's no shenanigans, right? There's no shenanigans, that there's no intent that, oh, I'm going to be coming back every week and making money off of this one, Joe.
You know what? It's kind of funny. I guess it sounds almost bad to say, but as a director of operations here, I like when a client that we haven't used the pay once promise for calls us back for a re-injection. I really, really do enjoy it, because there's nothing like that first time that they get to see the $0 LEM and they know that we're for real. You know what I mean? Like, I really do enjoy that. And so do the guys in the field. I mean, it's rare that it happens, because I think that we do have, some of the best technicians across Canada doing this work. But when it does apply, we really enjoy to give the LEM over with a $0 figure on it and show them that we are for real. Yeah, it's.
I'm curious, because I'm not involved in the day-to-day of the application of this, because it goes hand in hand with responding to customer inquiries that are not sort of not, you take care of that, I don't. How often are customers calling and knowing that there's supposed to be a promise, and how often are they surprised to find out that there's a promise? Like, I've never talked to you about this before.
So yeah, what we've made is it's a certificate. So we can actually give them a certificate, and it's got the installation technician that signs it off. So, I would call it a 50-50. Half the people would just take that ticket, and they might put it in with the job package. It goes into a folder in their desk, and they don't even ever think about it again. Should it leak, they might call us, and then we say, oh, well, you're within the 365 days. We'll have someone out there, tomorrow or the next day, and we'll get this touched up for you free of charge. And then they're shocked. The other 50% of them, they really hold us to it, right? They're like, oh, I paid the pay once promise. It goes on their clipboard, and they're waiting to call. You know what I mean? So, it's kind of a split, but it's nice when I personally like it when you can surprise them and they didn't know. It's a bonus, right?
Are any of the ones who know about it expecting some out clause from you?
No, they're pretty good about it. They'll just be, hey, it did leak. When can the boys come out? And we get it touched up for them, and we make sure that we do a really good re-injection, because I can't think of a time that I have yet for the call to come in twice. So, we really want to make sure we get it the second time if we didn't the first.
Yeah, going back to, sometimes certain leaks are not 100% sealable, and they do need some TLC and maintenance. And, so we have a few times when we don't apply the pay once promise. How often does that happen?
It's rare, but it's not so rare that we wouldn't be able to be right up front with you. Like, it's some things that we gather in our initial data. So, like, is there a big pressure fluctuation is a huge one. So if you've got a line that's dropping down and then having huge spikes in pressure, obviously it's going to be a little bit hard for us to keep sealant into all of the bores and everything that we would need to do. If we ever do run up against those scenarios, we can always do void injections to, get some more compound in there and make sure that we're getting a little bit more of a solid repair. But the big ones, the red flags for us is like, big water hammers, pressure fluctuations, and huge temperature swings. And then obviously just, I think one of our most common questions, if we do get called for a re-inject, is there any known plant upsets? Like, did you guys go through, a little bit of a hiccup over the last little bit that would have caused this thing to see some of these?
Yeah, and we try our best to call those things, in the initial evaluation, right? To make sure, one, not just to exclude them, but, in some of those situations, uncovering water hammer, temperature, pressure fluctuations, or intention for regular up and down cycles in the plant also are required so that we can design or plan for the best solution, regardless of the promise, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah. You said that our frontline guys are super important in this. How do our frontline guys communicate and share and go through making sure that our clients understand and receive and get confirmation about how our promise works? Because, it's one thing for us to talk about it and on our website, but at the end of the day, if you and I buy something, the last person that the customer interacts with is the person who gives you the best and the last impression, right? So tell me about how our guys are using this, because they're the face of the company, not me and you.
Absolutely. Yeah. The people in the field are the guys that are most times pitching what the best solutions are. So if you go out to site and, it's very common, I think it's common leak seal knowledge that you can have different kinds of, let's use flange repairs as an example. You can do wire and pins, you can do wire wraps, or, you can do engineered enclosures, tongue clamps, channel clamps, that kind of thing. What the guys will relay to them in the field is, we can do a temporary repair. If you want to get through the next 3-4 months, we can, do a wire wrap on this, or we can do a wire and pin in this. And, not to say that wire and pins don't last years and years. I'm sure I have wire and pins that I've completed in the past that are still in service today. But what they are selling them is the guarantee of an enclosure. Like, there's flange gap sizes, there's a bunch of things to take into consideration. But when our guys are in the field, I like that they lay out the options and then they lay out how Innovator will back each option. So for instance, re-injections are much more common, hence why we have a 30-day guarantee on wire and pins and wire wraps, opposed to an engineered enclosure with a tongue clamp that's right in the void and peened and injected, right? So we just make sure that we empower all of our technicians to pass the knowledge along of what the best repairs are, and then not, sit and let the client make a decision. We like to collaborate with them and talk them through each, pros and cons of each one, and make the right selection with them. And
because I think that's,
you can always go. I should note that there's lots of times, and this is very, very common. There's lots of times that clients will reach out to us and they'll say, we need an engineered enclosure, and we get out to site and our technicians are like, no, you don't. Like, we can fix this for $5,000 today. Avoid registration, avoid this and that, and we can drill these flanges and do our injection today, and this repair will get you for as long as you want. So it's a collaborative experience. It's not always an upsell, but it's the quality and the actual repair that we're looking for.
Right. I think that's a good point, right? I think because our guys and our teams know, like, our intent is the lifetime relationship with the client. We're not looking for any one-time big job. We want to do all their work, and that means doing the work that fits the customer's need, right? Whether that's a simple, drill and tap, a wire and peen, an engineered enclosure. And there's each one of those has a scale of complexity, and each one of those has equally a scale of cost. And I think it's good that and you mentioned about a collaborative approach. I think that's key, right? Like, solving these kinds of issues requires, it's not the best way to do this by going 3 bids and a buy. This isn't a commodity, right? Like, leak repair is a very nuanced work that requires a lot of conversations to come up with what's the best approach for what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, if a customer needs to get 3 months versus 3 years out of the repair, it's a very different conversation, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Typically, though, if customers have to pay for this stuff, what does it cost? What can a customer? Because we've done some. What I found interesting is, in 2016, 2019, I think 2021, we did some surveys of our clients. It was like 200 or 300 of our leak repair client contacts were asked to do a survey on their experiences industry wide on how often leaks reoccur and what it costs. What's your perspective on what a reinjection would cost if they were having to pay for it?
Yeah, I mean, most re-injections, depending on where you are, I mean, you always got to factor in travel and everything else. But on
All of
average,
its cost.
say between $3 to $5 grand, right? Like that's something that you're going to see each time that it leaks.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the cost of things, I'll tell you this: like I know you don't, and I certainly do not pride myself on being the cheapest. We provide a first-class service to our clients. And as such, upfront, we might seem slightly higher, but we're not selling, as I said, band-aids. We're selling real solutions here, and I like the fact that we are we're selling a 1 year repair guarantee. So
Yeah.
if we're $3,000-4,000 more expensive, how much is 4 re-injections going to cost you, opposed to a one-time purchase with Innovator? So,
Yeah.
Cost wise, I don't know where we sit with our clients, to be honest, or our competition. But our number's our number, and I feel that we're worth every penny.
Yeah. There's lots, and depending on where you are in the country and where you are in North America, there are some. Literally, we call it an out of the truck repair when we're doing wire and peens and drill and taps. But there are leak repair companies out there that just operate out of a truck. They don't invest in quality. They don't invest in cross country registrations and digital systems and safety and training. There is an investment to get high quality people like you provide, right? I mean, there's no one else that I know of that has rope access leak repair personnel. Those things are big investments, and they come with a cost, don't they? When we surveyed clients, there was certainly a range depending on positions. And it depend, and the range of ideas for cost and frequency were really interesting. The further away the respondent clients were from the work phase, the more they thought it cost. And so contracts and buyers thought a reinjection cost as much as $20,000. Frontline people thought like you, $3 to $5 grand. It really depends on how often it happens. I mean, it's obviously more than $3,000 to $5,000 to pay for someone to re-inject a 24-inch enclosure that might need a lot of sealant versus the typical 6, 8 inch types of repairs that are the vast majority of repairs in a facility, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inch. That's where just because that's what most of the piping systems are, right? The vast majority of connections aren't the largest diameters. So it was about $5,000. That's like across, and it was pretty consistent between 16, 19, and 2021 that frontline people who were closest to the work thought it cost around $5,000 every time they had to pay for a re-injection. And the frequency that they said, not us, but the frequency that they said, how often are they seeing a re-injection from companies other than Innovator? And the average response was 25% of the time. So that, if you put those two things together, that means that every single leak repair job costs $1,250 more than you think. Right?
Well,
$5,000 by 25% respondents. And I'm not saying that that's accurate, but that's the perspective of people who are buying leak repair services.
one thing that I think of is like how common would it be that people come out to site and then they do an enclosure install in one day? That's very common, right?
Yeah.
I come out, I put my enclosure on, we'll see you later.
Well, that's because they're trying to get off site so they can get to another job and get billable, right? They don't want to hang around.
Correct. What we like to do is, no matter what the install is, if it's pay once promise, we're coming back the next day, no matter where we are, because what happens with sealant injections is it needs time to settle. Sometimes it needs time to burn off carriers that are in there to help the sealant travel. And what's going to happen then is you're going to leave a void. So each day after we do the install, we want to go back, we touch everything up and make sure that the system is actually pressurized. And I mean, that's not a very common thing to see unless it's Innovator coming out to do that work. So, we're putting a lot of attention towards every little detail to make sure that this thing lasts the full year.
Yeah. When what was funny, as this was developing, I remember you and I having conversations and other people saying, well, it's got to gas off. It's, you're going to lose some compression. And literally when I provided the guidelines, I said, well, part of our promise and part of our operating procedure needs to be, we got to go back after gas off and curing to top it up before we sign the job off. And they went, oh, now it started to make sense. But I remember, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, you were telling me how it was a bit of a pain in the butt. Not that you didn't agree with it, but it does create some strain on resources because of the way that we do these jobs. We do require people to go back the next day and check their work and top it up and sign the job off as complete, which prevents you from an operations leadership standpoint to move that person to the next job because you got to finish the job from yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's
around that a little bit. We don't need to be, if this is a common site that we're at frequently, it's not like, we need to put the box on and come back exactly 8 hours later or something like this. We can schedule when it makes sense. So, we can do an enclosure installation. We can go to another project, get that done. And then even several days, if we needed to, come swing by afterwards and make sure that it's pressurized and do the final injection. So
yeah, you're just blending it into your workflow so that it works. So, because I think that's really the point, right? Is this doesn't have to be difficult, but because we put skin in the game and we're collaborating with the customer, everyone recognizes that an important part of leak repair, regardless of a guarantee, is to come back and make sure that, if you need to top up the sealant before you sign it off, that you do that, because sealants need to cure, sealants get under compression, sealants need to gas off, and that causes the potential for leak paths to be left in there if you don't top them up. And that's actually outside of water hammer and temperature fluctuation and a few things. A lot of not going back the next day, from my experience, is what causes a lot of these re-injections in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mike, how are you, what are customers saying to you around how they're feeling about this, from a trust standpoint, from a reliability standpoint? What kind of feedback are you getting from clients?
Yeah, I mean, the long-term clients that we've already had that have been using it, they're so used to it now that it's just average conversation. But the new ones, it certainly helps build a rapport. Like I like the communication back and forth on the start of the project as to, it makes them feel like we truly are there to, build a solution, which I mean, all of our competitors do that. But what we like to do is show them how long term it's going to be by going through every little detail and making sure that we understand what's in the system. You can ask what the pressure is and what the design temperature is and what the product is, and you can build and register an enclosure. But we like to actually understand, what does the piping system behave like? Because we're going to have an enclosure on this thing for 2 years. So, like we want to make sure that we're understanding the entire picture, if you will.
Right.
And it just helps us build a good relationship with some of the newer clients that have been using it. And the older ones are used to it, but they love it, and that's why they call us and us only.
Cool. Where do you think we should take it in the future? Like, what other places do you envision us applying some version of the Pay Once Promise in other service areas?
Well, I think that where it could go is in the bolting, and I know that me and you have discussed this a little bit, but if we put some sort of promise around our bolting, I think that would be very useful to end users, especially when it comes to turnaround work and everything else. What do you have in mind there?
Yeah, bolting is one for sure. It's a challenging application because in order to put a promise and a guarantee on bolting, it doesn't just require us to have skin in the game. It requires a lot of clients to change the way that they do bolting, because bolting isn't just about torquing a flange, right? You have to have the right specification dialed into the ASME PCC1 code of best practices, and you've got to have a flange inspection protocol, a documentation process for training and for flange inspection. Now, some clients are really good at that. We've got a couple of clients who have a really great flange management process, and those are easy fits to apply our flange management promise and guarantee on, which would involve, in my opinion, sort of our intent is that leak prevention would involve a commitment to provide certain types of leak repair if it leaks, right? So whether that's out of the truck repairs, engineered repairs, but there is a 5-step bolting process that we're going to have to bake in, but bolting is certainly one. A couple of other areas that I think could really get value and skin in the game for us and for our clients would be valve repacking programs during a turnaround when they have a lot of valves they want to repack. What I've seen, which is, again, creates this conflict in my mind, is, valve packing suppliers, depending on who they are, will provide our clients about a 1 to 2 year guarantee on bulk rope packing, and they'll provide a 3 to 5 year guarantee on the performance of die form custom cut packing. But no one guarantees the customer 5 minutes on the installation of them. And I think there's an opportunity for us to provide a higher end packing installation service that is backed up with a Pay Once Promise behind it. And so we've got to develop some operational processes and some education with our clients on what we're going to try to do there. But I think there's a great opportunity for us and for clients to dramatically improve leak prevention on valve packings with that. And another one that I want to work on, probably the most complex, but also probably the most challenging for customers is heat exchangers, and developing a flange management program around heat exchangers, because heat exchangers have pressure cycles, they have water hammer, and they have big temperature fluctuations, and they also got temperature gradients between the top phase and the bottom phase of the flow going in the heat exchanger. So you get a hotter part of the heat exchanger on one part of the flange and a cooler gradient. And those are much more complex solutions that involve gasket design, flange management, a bunch of things. But I want to get to a point where we are developing a heat exchanger program that also involves the pay once promise. Each of those things, particularly the bolting and the heat exchanger ones, require our customers to have a significant shift in their approach to managing those bolted connections in a different way than they might do today, right? But those are places I think where there's a lot of value for clients, that it's kind of where I want us to go. But, we got to do one at a time. So, I'm not sure which one it'll be next, but I think probably the next easiest one for operations and clients to probably bite onto is valve packing during turnarounds.
So since we're on the road of, up and coming, why don't you give everyone a little bit of a sneak peek into the 5x5?
Oh, yeah. So, I find the commercial side of our industry really funny, right? We've got a lot of publicly traded energy companies that are our clients, and their costs for how much they can sell a barrel of oil for, what their operating costs are, what their minimal costs for a barrel of oil. It's all public knowledge. If you want to find out what one of these clients are to cost or what they sell their product for, you literally just need to read their press releases, right? So it's publicly available. And the other thing that is funny is, inside of the buying systems that some clients try to perceive on the procurement side, is they want to have this sort of private, secret, 3 bids and a buy, no one knows what anyone's price is strategy. But it's all baloney, right? Because everyone knows what everyone's prices are. And, technicians and managers move around. We have close relationships with clients where they give us insight into where we need to be. There is a truth that there's no secrets in our industry. We're all very connected. We're all very networked. And so, when we're renting equipment, I just wanted to cut all the baloney and all the bull, right? Just cut the bull, make it simple, make it easy. We've got $15 million worth of equipment on our shelves, and our belief for our clients is that we want to be able to provide you great services when you need great services. If you want to buy that equipment, we want to be able to sell it to you so you can use it yourself. And if you simply need to rent it to use it for your teams, we'll help provide you with training and or guidance and or procedures, and we'll rent you the gear, because we're just trying to make sure our clients can use our capabilities and our technology whatever way they choose, right? It doesn't matter. Not everything we do is like that. We're not going to have our clients out there doing hot tapping and trying to do leak repair, but we do have a rental fleet of things like test plugs and hydro testing materials and certain kinds of pipe cutting and field machining and bolting, and that is all part of our rental fleet. I wanted to get away from, well, you're going to have to sharpen your pencil to make that one work. I was like, let's keep this simple, right? And I kind of borrowed this idea from the rest of the world, which is, a pricing guarantee on our rentals. So if you go to an electronics store today, and you want to buy a 200-inch TV, and they'll tell you, hey, show me you can get it at a better price somewhere else, and we'll match it or we'll beat it. And so a friend of mine's father used to own Visions Electronics here in Edmonton, and Visions Electronics had a 5% pricing guarantee. Simple, 5%. You got the same product, you can get it somewhere else. Show us that you can get it for that price, and we'll beat it by 5%. So that's what we're doing. On our rentals, we want our clients to rent our equipment. We want to get our equipment out the door. We want them to get access to our equipment at the best value. And so but I don't want to I'm not going to spend and waste all of our operations people's time and all of our sales people's time constantly checking the market to see where the price is. It's because customers are going to check it anyway, right? They're already checking it. So why do we need to? And so the 5x5 promise is really, really simple. When you're renting equipment and you get a price from us, and you feel that we should be doing better, show us a competitive price where you can get that same or equivalent product for a lesser price within 500 kilometers of any of our offices, and we'll beat it by 5%. Simple. No bull.
Easy.
Right. However, some clients, well, I can't do that. That's fine. If you don't want to participate in it, you don't have to. But we're just making it really, really simple. If you want the best rental price and you feel that we should be giving you a lower price, show us that you can get it cheaper somewhere else, and we'll beat it by 5%. It's that simple, right? Yeah. And again, it's simply because we want to be the best value for our clients. And in those areas of equipment that we rent that equipment, those pieces of equipment are commodities. And there's lots of people out there providing them. We think we've got better equipment in some areas, particularly in our test plugs. We think we've got I think we know we've got the largest inventory of hydro testing blinds, paddle blinds, and vented blinds in Canada. So we have differentiation. But, I don't want to lose your rental because some guy down the street tried to race us to the bottom on price. Just, hey, if we're $100 off and you can show us that we are, we'll beat it by 5%. It's just that simple. And if you don't want to participate in that, that's okay. But, the way that Ryan, the guy I knew from Visions, it's really simple, right? You bring in an advertisement from Future Shop or whatever was around at the time that says I can get that TV for $100 less. They said, okay, great, we'll beat it by 5%. And yep. So that's the inspiration behind the 5x5 is we'll beat. You show us a better price for a rental, and we'll beat it by 5% if that supplier is within 500 kilometers of any of our locations. Fort McMurray, Edmonton, Hamilton, St. John, New Brunswick. You can find a lower priced rental piece of equipment that's equivalent within 500 kilometers of one of those offices, and we'll beat it. I like it. That's the next evolution of all of these guarantees, promises, serve both the client to get the best value, right, and the company. For the company, it's risk reversal. We are making promises to lower our customers' risk in working with us. So, re-injections, we're lowering the risk of what it's going to cost them to fix and repair that leak. On rentals, we're lowering the risk by just promising that we'll be the best price. But you guys tell us that what that best price is, because we're not going to constantly be chasing the mom and pop rental office that's that just started up across the street. But we simply want to be our client's supplier and partner in these technologies in the long run. So I don't want to lose a client over someone dropping their price last week, right? So yep. It's real simple. So that's it, Mikey. Those are our pay once promise and our 5x5 guarantee. And I'm looking forward to where we can take it with other approaches with valve packing and flanges and heat exchangers, and who knows where else it can go. But much like what you were talking about, it's not just a guarantee, right? It's not some warranty. The approach to these things requires a systematic process that your team has to have to put into place, and the customer also needs to participate in that, right? In the collaboration. And it's good. It's going to be no different with, as we apply it to other applications, those same infrastructure processes and client collaboration need to be in alignment, because I mean, what would happen if we were promising the pay once promise on bolting, but the customer wasn't buying into following a step-by-step process? We'd be fixing a lot of leaks for free, right? So it's what are your closing thoughts on the pay once promise, Mike, and what customers should think about?
I guess just, if you're not currently using Innovator, think back to, what a pesky leak looked like and how annoying it was for you to handle throughout the, life of the actual repair. And just put some ease at mind knowing that if you do select Innovator this time, we will take care of it for you, and we'll make sure that we take care of it for you one time for one price at one cost.
Perfect closing to this conversation, Mikey.
Correct.
Listen, looking forward to the next 10 or 15 episodes. I think we've got a whole bunch planned out to talk about different things. So let's get together and have a chat on the next show. Thanks, Mike.
Perfect. Take care.